I realized that there was something called marketing, and that was more about finding the people that might want that product that you're selling and not forcing them to buy it, but actually show them why your product is better and so on. And I was like, oh, okay, marketing is very exciting. So I switched from sales to marketing a few years later.
Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of our episodes and podcasts. And as you may know, I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and it's getting close. And if you want to learn more about it, please go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, my guest is Tim Chalker, and he is the founder and CEO of AI Operator. And so let me tell you a little bit more about him. He is an AI first consultancy that empowers businesses and leaders to adopt practical, streamlined AI solutions. He was born in Istanbul and now is based in Bodrum. And Tim's technology and leadership journey spans Seattle, Los Angeles, London, and Barcelona. He's been frustrated by complex, inaccessible AI tools, so he built the AI operator to deliver human centered automation through consulting, training, and toolkits, thereby simplifying transformation for organizations. So, Tim, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday, it's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Guy, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your backstory on AI and marketing? How did you get involved in all this really cool stuff?
Well, yeah, marketing is a very interesting one because I was in Los Angeles selling carpets door to door. I was about, I think, 18 and 19 back then, so about 20 years or so ago. And I was selling carpets door to door, traveling the US, and literally selling things to people that actually didn't need it. And back then, I think it was early days of even Skype, and I think Facebook was still invite only. Good times. And I realized that there was something called marketing, and that was more about finding the people that might want that product that you're selling and not forcing them to buy it, but actually show them why your product is better and so on. And I was like, oh, okay, marketing is very exciting. So I switched from sales to marketing a few years later than that. And then I moved to London, and I was very lucky to work on in publishing companies, in old school magazine publishing companies, and be the marketeer there. And suddenly, I really got into digital, and then I became head of digital very rapidly. And then I found myself in what we called back then digital marketing, and that was, what was booming, and then inbound and so on. And my career grew. I moved to Barcelona when growth hacking was cool. So I was a growth hacker. And then I realized that that wasn't sustainable. I became a growth consultant, helping CEOs and so on. And that's then about, I guess, now it's about 10 years or so ago, and that I got into AI. I was in an AI company. I was the head of marketing for an AI company, for a deep tech company in Barcelona, for a startup. And we were doing computer vision for real estate, image recognition. Our sales cycle was about 18 months. It was so difficult to market this. Nobody wanted AI back then, right? It's not like now. Now you just say AI, everybody's super excited. Everybody just talks about AI. But back then, nobody wanted to talk about AI. So that's when I was into AI. And then I kind of got out of AI. Because I got into, B2B SaaS for e-commerce, still tech companies, a lot of tech companies. And then a few years ago, when I think it was ChatGPT, GPT 3.5 moment, we all got access. November 31st, 2022, I believe. And I didn't sleep. I was like, wow, this is so shit, but it's amazing, right? It was so crap in the beginning, but it could write some text. It was really bad at it. My wife's a copywriter, and I made jokes about her copywriting job and content writing job with this AI. It was terrible back then, GPT 3.5. But I saw something in it, and I'm glad that I did because I went full in and I created the AI operator, and we've been scaling and helping thousands of people. And our goal is to help over 1 million people to understand this technology and to be able to work with this technology so that they can reduce or even remove some of the repetitive work.
Wow. Yeah. And those are fascinating goals as to, go from 1,000 to 1 million. And I'm sure you'll be able to do it with all of the activity that's going on. So, one of the challenges, though, that leaders, business leaders have is that there's so much AI hype out there, and it's almost like they're getting overwhelmed. And I know even for myself, as much as I'm in it every day, I can't keep up with everything, and so I try and focus in. And but nevertheless, there is a ton of AI hype out there. So how are you helping organizations move? From kind of the early stages of experimentation to real operational impact.
Yeah, I think that first of all, we have this concept, love, not fear, right? So, the issue with I'm going to call it with the anxiety, not just being overwhelmed, but there's also anxiety. There's definitely fear of missing out, and the news, the news is so negative all the time. It's like, okay, AI is going to take over, we're going to be jobless, and the world is changing. It changed in the industrial age as well, right? So it is going to change, but this doesn't mean that the negative that we're thinking has to be that negative. So what we do is, first of all, help founders really understand where is AI at right now, not the one that you see on the news that it does, all this work that it doesn't actually do all that work, or it's not the quality is not there. It's not as predictable as you might be hearing out, in the media. And we tell them, okay, what can it do today? Right? It could definitely do this. Look, I can show you what it can do today. Right? And then they start really understanding of what we have in our hands in 2026 March, and we get their buy-in. They're like, oh, okay, great, it can do these things. Because what happens, guy, actually, is a lot of people come to me and they're like, wow, we want AI to do this. We want this agent that is going to do, some incredible things. And I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. And I'm like, do you do this already? Like, does any humans have done that? They're like, no. And they're shocked that I asked that question. I'm like, so why do you want to do this? They're like, yeah, but because AI is incredible. It's going to be magic. It's going to do incredible things, And I'm like, yeah, but how many hours do you spend on preparing that slide deck? How many hours do you prepare reports? How many hours do you spend on admin work, on trying to understand some numbers, even in marketing example? You want to understand your leads, your MQLs to SQLs ratio or things like that, right? The conversion rates. They're like, well, I ask somebody that is going to come back to me, and that's the founder, right? Ask the head of marketing. The head of marketing is like, okay, I need to go to HubSpot. I'm going to export some stuff and all that. It's like, all right, well, how many hours for you to get that report? Best case scenario is a few hours, but most case scenarios, like in a couple of days, you'll get the answer, right? And it's like, well, what if AI could do that today in minutes? And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, so yeah, so you don't have to build that incredible shiny thing that is going to happen that you've never done. Let's do the things that you do, but let's do them more efficient, faster, right? And but also with higher quality because AI can write really good Python code, and Python code is what data analysts, data scientists use to be able to query databases. Right? They're like, oh, okay. Well, if you didn't have a data scientist or a data analyst in your company, now you do. So when we get their trust and they understand that what's possible today, then we help them with training all their people. So we have a behavior change program where we help every human in the company be able to work with this technology in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's so fascinating. In some respects, we all have this vision that hey, AI can do all of these really great and cool things, but in essence, just start with the simple stuff and get
Yeah.
those those automations done where you can go from hours to minutes, like you were talking about, and then use that as a way to learn. number one, and teach and get your team up to speed and see the value of it. And then as you get, the simple automations, then you can get maybe combined automations, or you can get more complex ones, or you can, move to the next level and start to see things really change overall. So what are some of the common mistakes that you see companies making when they're trying to adopt AI tools?
Oh wow. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I've been hearing in the past couple of weeks from all the leads that I speak to is they're like, oh well, we got a co-pilot program. It's an 8-hour training program. And I'm like, okay, let me see that program. And I'm like, okay, what's the adoption, right? Let's say a company of 1,000 people. They're like, well, yeah, about 50 people did it. And I'm like, did they enjoy it? They're like, no. And I'm like, why does the rest don't do it? They're like, yeah, well, we have an adoption problem. No, I think you don't have an adoption problem. You have an excitement problem. You're giving them Copilot. First of all, it's not the best of the AIs out there, for sure, right? Two, you're giving them this 8-hour video training that is super boring. It's given by some technical people that tells you here is a feature and how you press the button on the feature, and then it has nothing to do with your work. And then you're shocked. You're like, why does nobody want to work with AI? Right. So I think that's like the number one common problem that I see. And, this is Microsoft, this is Google, Google, we had the luck of training some of their teams. But Google gives you now a free Gemini training, and they have people that come in and train you. And these are Google Cloud people. They're technical people that has potentially not much clue about that job at hand of the company they're training. And it's a generic training, and there's no adoption again. So I think that's number one problem I've been seeing, especially the last few weeks. This has been coming as a problem I see all the time now. And the other one is really thinking because you have the tool, because gave ChatGPT Enterprise, right? Or you gave, you have Gemini or Copilot, Claude a little bit better, of course, right now. But because you give the tool, you're like, okay, yeah, that's it. Everybody has access to the tool and they use it. And then you're like, yeah, 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 they use it. I asked them. Okay, well, how do they use this tool? And I look at it, they're like, well, they copy paste an email, and they're like, can you make this email sound better, or did I miss something? And it's like potentially if they did the email themselves, they would be faster, first of all. Second of all, they're not using the connector, right? So there's a connector to your email so that you don't even have to copy paste, right? And you can review actually the last 10 emails in one go. So they think that they're much more efficient because they have access to the tool. But again, there is really zero adoption. There's zero training. And also, I think that the third one is going to be shadow AI, right? So we get a lot of companies. They're like, oh, well, our IT team doesn't allow anyone to use any of these tools. Okay, great. Then I survey everybody, and everybody's like, well, we have DeepSeek and we have Quen and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, your IT team thinks you have nothing and you're not allowed to use it. Oh, yeah, it's on my personal computer. And I'm like, okay, well, but you put that spreadsheet of the report of Q1, right? They're like, oh, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, here we go, right? So there's definitely massive shadow AI as well. And IT teams that are saying no to this, and they're just like, because they don't know what to do. So they're not trying to figure out a lot of them, and they're just like banning it. And they're like, because it's banned, that it's solved. No, your team members are still gonna want some AI tools because it's the cool thing to do and you hear it everywhere and there is really a lot of efficiency to gain. So you can't just ban it. You have to have a stand, right? You have to say, we allow this tool, we give access to this tool, and this is how we use it. And here is a program, here's a coach, here's a training program, right? Here's an office hour that every Friday we're gonna all meet and talk about this, right? So you gotta start talking about it now, and you gotta bring experts, and don't try to tackle it just yourself, right? So these are the three common mistakes that I see.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, it's funny. A good friend of mine, he's the VP of marketing at a consumer packaged goods company, and I had some coffee with him, and we were talking about AI and what he did. And I think you're right. I think the training can be, it is good to get kind of an introduction to the general usage of the tool. But what he did is he then had an AI kind of a day, and he said, "Okay, today we're going to break out into three teams, and each team is going to develop creative concepts using AI to do a really cool launch of something." And each team came up with some great stuff, and each team then, because they had a focused task and each one of them were learning from the other ones, and there's always somebody that's much further advanced than the other
Yep.
ones, and they're the ones then that bring up the less advanced. And so now you have something where they're actually using AI to solve a very specific problem. And I think that that in and of itself is the better way to try and to get that engagement that you need to get the solution really really done in place the way you want.
Absolutely, and I think that what you're telling me, and this is what we're doing is to work with AI in your own task at hand in real tasks and not just this this promise of this technology that is going to do X, Y, Z. No, it's like, what do you do today? Are you going to create a campaign? Okay, let's bring in this tool and let's work with this tool and let's put it in the meeting room, even on a phone or in a computer, and let's transcribe the whole conversation, the meeting. Let's put it in there and let's see what it says, right? So just doing these type of little exercises on your day to day in your real work is going to create this, oh wow, right, this is incredible, these aha moments, these wow moments. And what we do at AR Pet is actually create these wow moments and these aha moments the most rapidly possible, and amplifying those aha and wow moments and making sure that they become a habit of having very many aha and wow moments very rapidly, because then you're very curious, then you understand that this technology is your friend. This technology is here to amplify your work. This technology is to really augment you, amplify you, give you superpowers. And the second you realize that, you don't even need us anymore. And that's when we're like, okay, well, great. Your team now is curious. Your team now, if a new feature comes, a new technology comes, or a new model comes, they'll figure it out because they want to figure out things now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they have the desire for that. But
Yeah.
one of the challenges on the other hand, though, and you mentioned it earlier on, is okay, so we're getting these great answers and we're actually getting something that makes sense, or at least it appears to be making sense. But that's then when the kind of the human in the loop comes in. And so tell us a little bit about how you maybe need to balance that, or maybe not formalize it, but at least provide some input as to how that mix of human and AI needs to come together as you're trying to automate or improve certain tasks.
Yeah, I think that in the beginning, you when you did your introduction, it's a bit of an old introduction of ours, actually, where we made a mistake, which we called everything AI first, and we said AI first training, AI first this, AI first agency, AI first, and everybody keeps saying, like, a lot of people are still saying AI first, and then we realized that this is where the fear comes. This is prioritizing one or the other, right? The human or the AI. So we changed our stance quite rapidly this year, in the beginning of the year, and it's all about human and AI, human plus AI, right? And this is very important to understand because we are not going to prioritize AI here and say, everything should be AI first and everything should be automated. No, it shouldn't be, right? Because that's where it's AI slop, right? Like things start looking the same and looks bad. Everybody has a purple and blue gradient website now, right? So because this AI slop. So now what we're saying is the human plus the AI means that you, as the human, as we were saying earlier, you're the tastemaker. You are the responsible because you cannot make AI responsible. You can't say, oh, the AI did that. No, you can't. You can't blame AI on anything. So what do we do instead? We, as the human, are now the orchestrator. We're the AI operator. We are the person who's going to operate all these tools and all these campaigns and all these designs, assets, and so on. We are going to operate these machines, these intelligent machines, that creates these things, but you know, puts it in front of us when we need it. And it's like, okay, well, I've done that. Can you check this out? Okay, yeah, that's great. Oh, I don't like that. Can you make sure that you use the other version of that? Right? But you're still the human that is going to sign off on that. Right? You're still going to look at the things and you're still going to say, all right, yeah, I love this. I approve this. Right? And the human that loves it and approves it is going to be the tastemaker. And I think that we are going to see humans becoming even more tasteful. They're gonna be more arty and they're gonna understand from these things because all that admin stuff, all the stuff, and putting a logo there on Canva and doing these things or whatever, those are going to be almost gone because they can be done automatically almost. But again, looking at something and saying that this is beautiful, this is something that I want to sign, this is something that I want to make sure that we stand behind it is the key. So how we do this right now is for sure explaining that you can do maybe 10x the job, but you are still going to be the responsible for whatever output you are doing with this technology.
It's funny you mentioned that. So AI could generate, let's say, 10 times as many campaign
Yeah.
creatives. And I guess there's two ways to implement those. One is to use them kind of in a test way. So I test all 10 of them, and then I figure out which one's doing better as fast as possible, and then convert over the maybe the top two. And the other one is to just sequentially go through all 10 of them, and then I guess that would be a little bit confusing. I don't think you can use 10 campaigns, in a sequence, in a fast sequence, because it would just you'd be really washing out the message that would be going to your customers. So I'm wondering if you had any thoughts about how best to take that 10x creative power and potentially best implement that.
I think that luckily I was a growth hacker and a growth person, and experimentation was one of the most important things. And you'd experiment, you look at the data for 2 weeks, understand if the experiment won or didn't win, and according to that you would experiment more. But in the example that you said about a consumer product, right? I think that was your example, and it's a tangible consumer product, right? Because it's manufactured
Yeah.
and it's in shops, let's say. Right. So yes, you can't have 10 versions of those, right? That's going to go crazy, right? The people are not going to recognize it. They're not going to understand. And so that's not going to happen. But could you rapidly design 10 different languages and actually open up to 10 different countries? Oh, yes, you can, because that packaging can now be in English and Spanish and French and so on. And you don't need translators and you don't need a translating agency that you're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to also create it in the sticker. Because if you go to Europe, your product has some certain chemicals is going to have certain different rules and legislations and all that. So you can 10x yourself by being able to actually do 10 more countries or 10 more regions and 10 more 10 different angles maybe on how to enter certain markets, right? You could potentially prototype a website very quickly and test it and you know do 10 websites, let's say, right? Drive some traffic to understand which one people interacts with more, and they're like, wow, I love that, right? And it's like, okay, maybe, right? And you're like, okay, great, well, that color, that brand looks better than this brand for this given country because their culture is more like this, right? Boom. Okay. You were able to potentially test that much faster, right? So there is going to be, of course, places where you're like, okay, well, you can't do 10 of the same shampoo into the same country, but you potentially can launch 10 other countries more rapidly. So this is just an example that I wanted to come from the example that you mentioned. In the digital world, of course, this is much easier. I have somebody that I love that sent me a business plan. And the business plan is about 17 pages. And I was like, oh my God. And they're like, can you give me feedback on it? And I'm like, really? It's like, today, I don't expect anyone to send me a business plan. You should send me an actual product. If it's a digital product, you should send me an actual, because on a weekend, you can build a product, right? You can build at least a working prototype and not even a clickable prototype, an actual product that works. And you could actually get your first 100 customers, and then you don't even need a business plan. So I think that times are changing very rapidly, and we need to understand what is 10x. And 10x doesn't mean that we're
Mhm.
doing 10 of the same thing, but We can right now myself, here on my laptop, I have 7, 8 tabs open with a Claude Code, which is a version of Claude on the terminal, and I can do 7 different tasks. I'm doing a sales task, a marketing task, and an ops task. I'm doing a outreach. I'm preparing for a customer for tomorrow, and I'm preparing a proposal. Right, like I'm doing 7 things at the same time, but I'm still there, and the machine still pings me, and I look at it. But before, I would have needed potentially 2 weeks and 7 or 10 people to do that job.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, interesting, and so that 10x has got to be a pretty, you got to be careful with that. And
Yes.
but leaving that for the moment, now, how do you see, especially now in marketing, but maybe leadership in general? So, how do you see AI kind of reshaping those leadership roles and what leadership now really looks like in the AI assisted world that we're now moving into?
Wow. I think that, I call it the Great Reset. I believe that big companies can fail and small companies can rise, right? So I think that we're going to see a massive shift in economics in companies out there. And I think that leadership is going to be super key because the leader who doesn't adopt into this technology is potentially going to lose for sure, right? Even not potential is absolutely for sure. But also the junior leader who doesn't have potentially the experience or the knowledge, the experience of years of understanding the industry and so on, might not be able to also achieve great success. So I believe that leadership is changing a lot. But what's going to happen, and this was a very interesting thing that I saw, I read about and I researched about. It's, let's say, junior team members or junior managers and junior leaders, right? Or like new leaders quite into this technology and they're great with this technology. They could do great things, but they don't have the knowledge and the experience of somebody like you, right? That has been many years in the business. But so, somebody that has many years in the business that doesn't adopt the technology doesn't have that. So I think that matching these two leaders, right? Matching these two skill sets is going to be the key, right? So somebody that has the knowledge, the experience of the industry, of the human part, of all that stuff, and somebody hungry to learn, technologically, very forward. If you match these two leaders, you now suddenly have a very strong leadership. And I think that this is what we're going to see those companies, right? Like these small companies of, 2, 5, 10 people that does millions and millions is going to be a combination of these people. And I don't think that it's going to be, the CEO of a massive company that has been doing great management for the last 40 years very easily can lose to another leader that has 20 years of experience but has a team that is very technologically um, forward thinker. So I think that this is a very interesting era because, again, as I said in the beginning of this answer, it's the great reset. So I think a lot of companies, a lot of leaders are going to lose, but a lot of them also are going to win. And I believe that these are the ones who understand the gaps they have and the ones who wants to be able to work with this technology rapidly in 2026, because I don't think that we're going to have much more room to make a difference. I think that 2027 is going to be kind of the last year of, the lurker or the last ones adopting this technology.
Well, and the adoption of it is so fast, and I think you're so right. There's going to be kind of a new shift where some of the larger companies that are held back because of their perception of risk or their perception of, I don't know, structure and yeah, exactly. And then there's going to be these small upstarts that are just going to say, well, I'm ready to take the risk. We're going to go for it. Going to, put all of your brain power of the team in and all of that blood, sweat, and tears and AI, and they're just going to blow it out of the water. And all of a sudden, there's going to be this thing going on. And yeah, I definitely agree with you that that is going to be the shakeout coming up here.
Yeah, I call it the Great Reset, and I think that I think you said it really nice. It's the shakeout, and I'm not saying this in a lot of podcasts because it's more on the fear side, but I've been talking a lot about it with people. It is going to be a bloodbath. You know, we are going to lose a lot of jobs. You know, things are going to change, are going to get reshaped. But I think at you know, at the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel is very positive. But we are going to have 3 to 5 years of quite bad times. You know, I think I should start agreeing in this in reality and accepting this, so that I can help foster companies that are not even realizing what's happening and what's coming, right? I think that yes, there's a great adoption, as you're saying, Guy, but you know, I speak to companies every day about this, and you still have companies of 1,000 people that says, you know, only 50 of my people have a tool, and only 50 of them use it, and 950 of them doesn't use it. You're like, oh shit, right? You know, like
Well, you
you,
have to though be careful,
yeah,
and let me interrupt you there. You have to be
please.
careful because if you have a company of 1,000 people, um, they have to. It actually has to be defined as a company of 1,000 knowledge workers.
Yes.
So certainly marketing, maybe a little bit on accounting, maybe some operations management. But if you're out on the line, or if you're out in the field or whatever, you can't get rid of those hands and feet. So
Hmm.
there may only be an impact on the knowledge workers, and I think that actually has been taking place, here over the last 5 years or so, where the knowledge workers, even though they're incredibly important in terms of what they can deliver, the competition there is so extreme, and whereas on the hands and foot kind of side, where people are working that way, there might be less a desire to become a truck driver or a plumber or this or that, and they're making a ton of money. And so,
Yeah.
and unfortunately or fortunately, the AI piece is now going to make those knowledge workers really have to figure out how they can fit in. And it'll be an incredibly interesting dynamic, maybe, tearful kind of time, but it'll also be very joyful for some people as well.
Yeah, and I'd love to add something to that because it was about 2 years ago, and one of our clients that has 50% of their team members are field people. And we ran a survey to the whole company, and one of them said, you know, I said, I have 20 years of experience. AI cannot help me, right? And I'm in the field every day. I'm not even in front of my computer. AI cannot help me. And I was like, okay, well, hold my coffee, right? So I love it when I get challenged like this. And it was the days that, you know, custom GPTs were new, they were cool in ChatGPT. And okay, well, this field person comes into the office on Fridays for a half day. And that half day, they report what they've done in the field for the whole week, right? Which clients they visited, what trainings they gave in the different shops, in retails, and so on. And they do this half day in the office. They have to try to remember what they visited. They have to try to find their notes if they took some notes, right? And we built a custom GPT with them. Actually, they built the custom GPT that would connect to the Salesforce so that when they left a place, they could just put their AirPods on and just click on the custom GPT and say, "All right, well, I want to report a visit." And the custom GPT would ask, "Great, are you in that street? Was it this visit because of that day?" Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Okay, how did that go from your last notes? Blah blah blah. And then in about 10 to 15 minutes conversation, the system is filled with brand new information in proper information. So now on Friday, they don't even have to come to the office. They have another half day that they can be going to more clients, first of all.
Mm.
Second of all, the reporting got very good because they didn't have to wait. It was very hot and just on spot. And you know, they had company phones, they had company cars, so they could even do CarPlay while they're driving to the next place and actually being productive in those times. And the person came back and said, "Oh my God, I love AI. I didn't think that AI could help me outside my laptop, right?" And AI can help you in many ways. You know, when we talk about field people, we'll talk about construction. You know, today, how many times, you take pictures and then you have
Yeah,
to report,
yeah,
you have to write down what you do in the pictures. We have a client that we're designing a proposal generator. And normally they have somebody, surveyor going to the field, looking, taking pictures, and then writing, bad wall, blah blah blah. There is mold here, or that's gonna fall, or whatever. And they're
yep,
just writing,
yep.
writing, and they take a half day to visit the whole site and then report this in. we built a tool. They just take picture, 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 and while they're taking, they can even be voice dictating and say, "Oh, here I see this. This is going to be a bit of an issue. Here I see that. Here I see that. Boom." Right in 2 hours, one
Yeah.
hour, the whole
Yeah.
thing is done, and it's a beautiful report with actual images, and the images are recognized by image recognition. And incredible things are happening, especially with the models that we have today. They're incredible at recognizing images as well. So we are starting to see even field people having superpowers when they're on the field. And you see the truck driver. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
autonomous driving is becoming a reality. I'm going to go to San Francisco in a few weeks, and I love Waymo. It drives so fast. It actually drives on the speed limit, and it does these moves. And the first time I was in Los Angeles, and I was like, oh my God, it's like it does such incredible moves that no human would do it because they don't even see it that clearly, which this is calculated in the milliseconds of can I move here, can I move there, and so on. And then we blame them like, oh, once it got stuck on a street or one accidents all the time. Humans make problems all the time, right? So I think trucks are going to have autonomous trucks at some point as well. We are going to see
Yeah.
the field changing massively, and I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about robotics yet. Robotics are very rapidly, growing and innovating in the robotic space, and it is a space I'm very interested in. In a few years, I do believe that we are going to be able to help our clients with robotic arms, robotic robots
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
humanoids, and many other things. So I think that we are going to see a massive shift in field work as well.
It's definitely coming, that's for sure. Tim, I'm going to have to break it right there.
Yep.
But this has been absolutely phenomenal, and I wish we had more time. I do think though that to your last point that at some point the robotics is going to be there, and it's
Yep.
it's starting. It's just pretty incredible. But in any
Absolutely.
case, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Where can folks reach you and your company and find out more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. ARoperator.com is the website where you can find all the information. You can follow me at Tim Checker on YouTube, on LinkedIn. And if you're serious and you have any questions about, helping your team and behavior change and adopting this technology, you can send me an email on tim@aroperator.com.
Fantastic. Well, Tim, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And again, the URL is aioperator.com, aioperator.com. Tim, so good to have you. Really appreciate it.
Guy, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely.